Hello and welcome. So in this class, we will be working on practicing some of our standing postures that you might see in a typical yoga class, and how to engage our muscles when we're keeping our pelvic floor in mind. We're also going to use that as a warm-up for what's known as trauma release exercises, or TRE. And all TRE is essentially fatiguing our muscles enough to the point where we just start naturally shaking, and it's just really good for releasing any kind of tension that we might have stored in our body. So to get started, I have a pile of blocks here just in case. You might also want a chair or an ottoman or some kind of piece of furniture nearby as a kind of the support mechanism when we go into some of our postures. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So to begin, just find a Tadasana pose. No need to really engage here. I'm gonna step my feet a little bit wider. I'm not really worried about where my toes are right now. And I'm just going to start with a couple of gentle heel lifts. So just warming up our calves a little bit. And remembering to breathe. And we'll do a few more calf lifts. And if they start to get fatigued, that's a good thing. You can always take a rest. No need to power through. But we will be working on, focusing on fatiguing the muscles in order to kind of get the best shape possible at the end of class. All right, so once you've finished your calf exercises, shake it out if that feels good. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna step into a chair pose. So for my chair pose, I'm actually going to come, again, with my feet about aligned with my outer hips, or maybe even a little bit wider if that feels good. And my toes like to naturally turn out a little bit, and so I'm just gonna honor that right now. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take a seat. And something to keep in mind as we enter into chair pose when we're thinking about this from a pelvic floor place. If you've ever been in a traditional or a typical yoga class, you might get the cue to lift your arches and lift your toes. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna focus on keeping our feet flat on the ground, kind of spreading our toes out. And I like to think about my feet actually getting rooted down into the earth. The next thing that we're gonna think about is kind of engaging our internal rotators. So if you kind of think about where that line of your underwear goes, drawing that inward as if someone's behind you, kind of pulling a string back from that place. I'm also going to shift my weight back using my knee bend. So finding a nice hinge. And then I'm going to think about separating my sits bones. Now it can be really easy in a chair pose to kind of find that anterior pelvic tilt with the help of a rib flare. We're not going to do that. We are going to pull our heart back to avoid rib flare while keeping our sits bones separated and honoring that pelvic tilt. I'm keeping my hands at heart center today. Again, if you're in a typical vinyasa class, you might hear a cue to bring your biceps by your ears. If you decide to raise your arms, remember to keep pulling your heart back and the front of your rib cage down as you do so. You may find that if you're not flaring your ribs, your biceps don't necessarily go by your ears, and so that's okay. So you can bring your arms more out in front of you, or again, I'm just gonna use heart center. All right, we've been here for a little bit. Go ahead and stand up, shake out your legs if you need to. And then we're just gonna use a one-legged Tadasana as a transition, so you can bring your left knee up and then step yourself back into a warrior one. Now for our warrior one, keeping our pelvic floor in mind, we are actually going to take a shorter stance front to back and a wider stance side to side. And again, you can play around with this in your own body to see what feels good, but you'll notice my front knee bends, and I'm actually not really going that low. You might hear, if you're going to a community class or a public class, that we might be striving for a 90-degree bend in warrior one or warrior two. I'm actually gonna operate more at my mid-range here, because the thing that I wanna keep in mind for my body is creating a stable structure for my pelvic floor. So once I've found my foot position, again, I'm gonna internally rotate. Again, it's just like in that chair pose, imagining that string kind of being pulled back from behind me. I'm gonna lunge a little bit forward. And then again, hands can be at heart center. They can be out in front of you. Again, my rib cage is being pulled down and my heart is being pulled back. Or you can raise your arms. Again, keep your rib cage basket stacked directly above your hips with the intention of being able to create more space for our diaphragm and more space for our breath to flow down into our pelvic floor. And you can go ahead and start breathing into your pelvic floor space. And just notice as you internally rotate your legs, what else gets activated. I know I feel some activation in my left glute right now. A little bit in my right glute. And we'll be here for just a few more breaths. And take one more breath in. And exhale, we'll find warrior two. So for warrior two, my right foot is pointing relatively forward. My back foot is turned inward slightly. And then again, I'm going to keep this, this narrower stance, and I might even step in just a little bit more, again, with the ultimate goal of creating stability in my body and a place where I can really practice the engagement that I want from my internal rotators on my front leg, and then we're gonna activate our externals on our back leg. So you'll go ahead and bend into your front knee. Option to extend your arms long, or option to keep your hands at heart center, or you can even keep your hands on your hips. And again, I'm going to focus on externally rotating my front leg this time. Again, focusing on bringing this up and back. And then I'm internally rotating my back leg. And then you can sink as deep as feels good in your body. But again, we're not really going to end range here. We're actually practicing more at mid-range so we can practice this activation. And then I like to breathe into my pelvic floor here. And notice as you do so, how your pelvic floor can stay relaxed and you can have this sense of air moving up and down with your diaphragm and your pelvic floor as your glutes and your internal and external rotators are engaged. And again, pull the heart back, soften your shoulders. And take one more deep breath in. And exhale. Extend your arms long just for a transition. Take a gentle reverse warrior. Again, avoid rib flare. And then cartwheel your arms down into a low lunge. Now I'm gonna go ahead and grab 2 blocks, one for each hand. And we're going to bring ourselves into a warrior 3. So for warrior 3, my hands are on my blocks, kind of lightly resting, just as a sense of support. My back leg is lifted, and my toes are pointed straight down to the ground. Now again, when I come into these positions, many of us, again, with vaginismus happen to have a rib flare. It's not a coincidence. And so again, I'm pushing up through the back of my heart and the back of my rib cage, while I'm having that sits bone separation to again honor my pelvic tilt without flaring my ribs. Then from this warrior 3, we're gonna take an inhale and exhale, option to find a Shiva squat, and all I'm doing is bringing my back knee into my front knee. And then I'm going to extend into my warrior 3. Take an inhale here and exhale, Shiva squat. Inhale into my pelvic floor. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Last one, inhale. And exhale. Come back up into warrior three. And then gently step your back foot back and lower your back knee for a crescent lunge. So we're gonna just take a crescent moon variation. So our back knee is down, our heel is lifted, and I have my back toes tucked under. And I just really like lunges because they're an excellent place where you can, again, practice your internal rotation. So again, finding that underwear line space, pulling a string back, and finding that engagement. And again, we're going to avoid squeezing our butt cheeks together, but we are going to find that nice glute activation more on like the upper and outer parts of our glutes. And so when I find this level of activation, I actually can't sink that low in my hips. So you might see, again, if you're in a community class or a public yoga class, there might be a cue to sink low in your crescent moon. That's totally okay, especially if you really want to get into the front of your hip area. But right now, if you want to practice activation, it's really great to just kind of stay lifted and find that engagement. You have the option to stay here, or the option to find a gentle twist. While I'm in this position, again, if you're in a class, I'll often cue revolved crescent lunge. Bring your hands to heart center and pull your left, in this case, elbow to your right knee. I'm actually just gonna keep my hands on my knee. I'm going to keep my rib cage pulled back, the front of my rib cage pulled down. I'm going to put my right hand on my low back, my sacrum area, my left hand on my knee. I'm just going to take a gentle twist and open my torso. And no need to really focus on the depth of the twist. Focus more about creating, again, more space in your rib basket for more breath to flow. And then gently release. And all we are going to do is I'm going to come up to my back leg, and I'm going to walk myself over to the other side for a low lunge on my left. I'm going to put my blocks away from now. Go ahead, step your right foot in to meet your left, and then just walk your hands up your thighs, and we'll do the other side. So again, my chair pose, I'm bringing my feet a little bit wider than my hips. My toes are gently turned out. Find whatever feels stable in your body. So that might mean your toes are in a different position than mine. It might mean that your stance is wider or narrower than mine. And then go ahead, and once you're ready, start to sit down low. Use the bend in your knee to create the hinge in your hips, rather. And again, keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. You know, that's one of my biggest challenges, is not lifting my toes and my arches in postures like these, where I've been used to doing that for so long. And the reason is we just want to find the most stable part, the most stable foundation for our bodies. Because when we feel unstable, that's when our pelvic floor wants to activate. And again, pull your rib cage back. Find your internal rotation. And soften your upper body where you can. And again, notice your glutes. Make sure you're not squeezing your butt cheeks together. Keep your sits bones separated. And gently lift up. And feel free to shake out your legs. All right, and bring your weight into your left foot. And just for transition, we'll find one-legged Tadasana. And step your right foot back. And find your warrior one. And again, you might need to play around with your feet to see what, again, feels stable in your body, that being the number one quality that we're looking for. You can also find a crescent lunge here with your back heel lifted, if that feels better for you. So start to sink into the posture. Find your internal rotation. And come back to your breath. And take one last inhale. And exhale. And your next inhale, transition to your warrior two. Again, this might be a little shorter than what you might be used to if you have an existing yoga practice. Again, hands can be at heart center, on your waist. They can be extended outward. Again, if you do extend outward, think about drawing your shoulder blades apart rather than together. We're going to go ahead and find internal rotation and external rotation. And I like to imagine squeezing my heels toward one another isometrically, so without actually moving. And that just gives an extra sense of engagement. We'll just be here for a few more breaths. And then extend your arms outward. Again, keep your shoulder blades separated. Take a gentle reverse warrior, lifting your left arm up. And then cartwheel your arms down to find a low lunge. And again, I'm going to grab my blocks. Feel free to do the same. You can also use a chair here or a piece of furniture. I'm going to lift my back leg up into warrior one. My toes are down. My heart is back. I'm going to inhale and extend my heel and exhale, Shiva squat. Inhale, extend. Exhale, bend. Inhale, breathe into your pelvic floor. Exhale, bend. Inhale. And exhale. Last one, inhale. And exhale. We're going to extend our leg back. Lower it down and find a kneeling position. And you can use your blocks if you still want them. Otherwise, you can lift your torso. Again, heart back, back of your rib cage up, front of it down. Tuck your back toes under for stability. Internally rotate your legs. And then again, hands can be on your thigh, at heart center, or on your hips. And as with every posture, just keep softening your pelvic floor as you find engagement in what I think of as my new core, which is my internal rotators, my external rotators, my glutes, and my obliques, which are, traditionally thought of more as the core. But you'll be noticing I'm not really cueing anything at the front of the body. For example, belly button to spine. I'm not really thinking about that. That tends to cause, at least in my body, overactivation in the front, and again, that restricts the movement of the diaphragm. And then again, if you want to find a gentle twist, pull your heart back, the crown of your head up, left hand to sacrum, and gently twist open. And gently come out of your twist. And then we'll lower down to eventually to our backs. So we're going to be transitioning into TRE, so trauma release exercise. If you're not interested in that, you can stop this practice now. You just did a great little flow. But if you're ready to proceed, go ahead and lay down on your back. Bring your hands to your sides. Palms can be up or down. And then bring your feet together to touch and open your knees wide for Supta Baddha Konasana. If you find that you're popping a lot here in your ribs, you can always rest a blanket underneath your shoulders and maybe create a little pillow under your head. I'm feeling pretty good right now, and so I'm just gonna go without a blanket, but know that that's always an option. All right, so for the first exercise for TRE, again, we're going to induce shaking in our body. We've already fatigued our muscles a little bit in order to help get us here, and we're just gonna keep doing that. And so if you start to shake, then you know it's working. So press your feet together, and then go ahead. Again, keep your sits bones separated as you lift your hips. Again, you don't need to lift your hips too high. We wanna avoid using a rib flare to lift them any higher than they need to be. So just a few inches is fine. And you may notice a shaking starts right away. We're gonna hold here for at least 30 seconds. If you're doing this on your own, you can hold for 2 to 3 minutes if you like. I know I've already started shaking. If you start shaking and you're not comfortable with the sensation or you want to just stop it, you can always straighten your legs and flex your toes back toward the face. And that will kind of pause the sensation. If you're shaking so much and you want to continue it, but your legs are getting fatigued, you can always lower your hips to the ground, and then you can lower the soles of your feet to the ground as well. We'll just be here for a few more breaths. And again, I'm keeping my pelvic floor nice and soft here, inhaling into my perineum, and exhaling and just kind of letting everything soften. And go ahead and lower your hips if you haven't done so already. You can rest here in Supta Baddha Konasana, or again, you can always bring the soles of your feet to the ground, knees up, or to stop, straighten your legs, flex your toes back. If you'd like to move on, we're going to start lifting our knees just about 1 inch at a time. So I just lifted my knees 1 inch, and we're just gonna hold here for at least 30 seconds. And again, if you're at home by yourself and you want to extend this exercise, you can hold for up to 2 minutes. And feel free to close your eyes here. Otherwise, you can just soften your gaze at a point on the ceiling. And if you're still with me, go ahead and lift your knees just 1 more inch. And go ahead and move 1 more inch. And if this puts any tension on your ankles, you can always start to bring the soles of your feet down to the ground. And then 1 more inch. Again, you always have the option to stop if anything becomes too uncomfortable in your body. And then 1 more inch. I'm not sure if you can see on the video, but I'm shaking a lot. And then 1 more inch. And again, if you started shaking a lot, just remember that all we're doing is releasing any pent-up stress or energy. If you have any other kind of somatic release, like tears, crying, big sighs, just let it all happen. If you have an emotional release, that's great. Whew, okay. And then 1 more inch, if you've got it. And again, you might need to start to put the soles of your feet down toward the ground. I haven't done this in a while, so apparently I have a lot to let go of. And then gently bring your feet down to the ground. You can keep your feet separated or hip width distance apart, or you can toe heel them a little bit farther apart, come a little bit pigeon-toed, and then draw your knees. Let them kind of draw together. And we'll just take a few breaths here. And all we'll do next is the exact opposite of what we just did. So I'm going to crawl my feet back together. And I'm going to open my knees just a little bit. And again, if you want to stop at any time, you can just straighten your legs and flex your toes back toward the face and call it a day. And then I'm going to open 1 more inch. I have my feet together right now. My feet are still, the soles of my feet are still on the ground, but eventually when I do, maybe the next one, I'll start to lift the soles up and put the soles together. And then 1 more inch. And stay with your breath. Again, always softening into the pelvic floor, into your perineum. One more inch. And 1 more inch. And 1 more inch. And 1 more inch. And if you find yourself shaking a lot more than me, know that that's totally normal. The first time I did that, my legs felt like they were out of control. Even when I started to just kind of bring them into like a more stable and grounded position. And again, it's totally normal, whatever is happening in your body. And again, know that you are always in control. You can always stop by straightening your legs and flexing your toes back. One more inch, if you've got it. And if you've got it, one more inch. All right, you can gently bring the knees together. You can knock them together, bringing your feet wide, or you can straighten them and flex your toes back toward your face. And just take a few breaths in whatever position feels good for you. Maybe bring your hands to your womb space or heart space or both. And then draw one arm overhead and gently come into a fetal position. And you can take some time here. Once you're ready, come up to a seat. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next class.